The craziest thing is that we rarely see Makoto outplayed, but that's actually what happened. Now, the thing is with that outplayed, it kind of kills maybe the last string, that last strand that was keeping Makoto connected to the humans, because at this point it feels like we're going all in with demons. And I can't even say I blame the guy. The guy was a grade A D-bag. No one can deny that, but he wasn't wrong. He is a very novice merchant. He was not able to play with the big dogs in this situation. The unfortunate thing is that Big Dog doesn't realize just how much he would easily switch to demons if given enough push, and that kind of feels like with where we're at. But there's no other way to put this episode. It was some bullshit between how they treated Makoto's students with so much handicaps in this tournament, yet the handicap wasn't enough to even sway them. They were kicking ass and taking names. And then you add in everything with the trading stuff. Nothing was really going their way, yet both sides still came out on top. Makoto's students, despite the disadvantage, still came out swinging with big W's. And Makoto, despite getting a massive L with that conversation, I mean, we're still sticking it to the goddess one way or another. So it's all gonna turn up Makoto, but definitely an outplayed move, which you rarely see in the show. But I do have a full live reaction over on my Patreon. If you want to see my full uncut thoughts to today's episode or any of these wonderful episodes, it's gonna be over there if you're interested. So where do we begin? Let's start with the tournament. That was the thing we all knew we were getting this episode, and yeah, it was kind of scummy. I know some people are like, oh, you know, I was hoping they were going to fight other people. Honestly, I think it's really interesting watching them fight themselves, you know, our own class and stuff, and the idea that they made so many excuses, like, oh, because of said levels, you need to use these wooden swords, or, like, everything about it was just like, they were treating them like they were lesser. And the best part was they were so skilled it didn't matter. At one point, that D-bag comes in with, like, the royal armor. And you knew he wasn't going to win. But just consider the fact that if our boy Jin went up against someone to his own level, the same level, with that level of equipment, how would he have done anything? Like, it was so scummy. He's up here with a goddamn wooden sword, and he's coming in dressing like King Arthur. Now, sure, one hit and he drops that blade. It's hilarious, and it really puts him in his place. Though I think he took some sort of like Hulk-level steroids and is going to turn into a monster, so we'll see where that goes. But nonetheless, they had everything pushed against them. The thing that was actually surprising was like the upper stands with like the royalty. I was not expecting our girl to be like, hey, basically shut your mouth. That's actually pretty impressive. And then I think it was like the king or whatever, like joining in on it. You know, there was some royalty up there that was like talking some mad smack, and they got quickly put in their place. But it was really interesting because, like, you know, the actual tournament's kind of interesting. So they have like these 3 dolls. So if actual damage is applied to a point of hurting, the dolls take the damage, right? Now, the thing about that is that depending on the attack, you know, it could be all 3. And we see that a couple of times in the match. But if you threw a Mio or a Tomoe or a Makoto into that, $1,000 might protect you. Like, it's you would need a lot to actually, you know, be able to deal with it. But the matches were pretty fun. It also shows just how scummy everything was in terms of how they were painting up. Though, you know, by the end of the whole ordeal, I mean, Makoto definitely made a name for himself in terms of everything like that. It was kind of fun to see the actual final match because I actually thought our boy was going to win it, and everyone was like, no, she's going to win it. And I'm like, actually, yeah, that makes sense. I honestly didn't have a good accuracy. I was like, oh, this guy, no, okay, he didn't win. I was like, okay, my boy Jin's going to win this. Like, he's very talented, and it's like, of course he went. Like, if you're going up against, if you have a very skilled warrior and a very skilled mage, you should probably bet on the skilled mage. Like, let's be honest. Like, if they're actually as skilled in terms of their own crafts, the range attack's gonna win, and that's basically what happened. But it was fun. It was a different style of a sporting tournament event than you normally see in an isekai, and it was kind of infuriating. It was like silently infuriating seeing just how screwed they were, because Makoto's pretty much reached his limit, right? Like, that was like the big thing at the end of last week's episode, and yeah, he was pissed off the whole damn time, and then you throw him into a situation that's basically putting him at gunpoint saying, give me 90% of your profits. And it's like, it makes sense. Like, you can't pay a few gold coins to these people. Like, the amount of money they have, it has to be worth something. You're not going to tell us your trading routes. And, like, he really did get smacked around. Like, he had no cover up and was basically exposing himself. Like, playing with the big dogs in this world, he was at a severe disadvantage with communication. The unfortunate thing for them is all you're kind of doing is seemingly pushing him away from humans. And he's trying his best, but it's like every step of the way, it's like everyone wants him not to work with them. And really, it's gonna be interesting because, you know, the natural instinct is what Tomoe or Mio wants to do, which is to strangle the fool, but it's like, that's just gonna create more problems. We have our game plan, of course, but it was a very frustrating episode, but in a good way. This was the type of frustration that, because Makoto is going through so much BS, we get a really interesting character arc, a really interesting story arc. A few weeks back I said it felt like we were finally in the groove again. We played caught up to cut content from season 1, we got all the introduction of this season out of the way, and we're into what is clearly going to be the best of Tsukimichi to date. Like, this core of Tsukimichi is going to stomp on everything that came before. I don't see any other way around it, unless the production somehow fell off. But they clearly know what they're doing, there's structure, there's great moments, and there's a lot of fun moments, and like, honestly, you felt proud of seeing the students with how far they've came, but most importantly, it's really interesting seeing Makoto almost get his back pushed against the wall, but also just struggle so much all at the same time, right? But this is one of those episodes that really kind of highlights why the first core wasn't like filler or pointless, right? Like, all that setup with the students and getting all these different perspectives going, if we didn't have that, the build-ups and payoffs that we're getting now in these episodes would feel very lackluster. It's one of those situations where it's like, in a weekly watch, Core 1 maybe isn't going to be for everyone, but if you have the ability to binge, Core 1's going to fly by and you're going to get immediate payoff. It's just one of those situations, right? But Core 1, while definitely the weakest of Tsukimichi in my opinion, like I'd put Season 1 above Core 1 of Season 2, it's definitely very needed for what we're clearly getting for now the best of Tsukimichi's content is how I'd put it. This was definitely one of my personal favorite episodes of Season 2. I mean, it really is like the past, like second core, completely different league than Core 1, but it's like, it's gonna be very unpredictable with where it goes because, you know, a couple powerful allies shielding us from people like this, it could really keep him level and in this situation, but it really feels like, yeah, like we're getting that land, and, you know, Makoto's real end goal is just sticking it to the goddess, and I can't say I blame him with how his life started, but this was actually the most closest feeling to the beginning of Tsukimichi, like Season 1, that we've had, because it just felt like all that progress, he thought he was doing so well as a merchant, everything was going his way, and threats that were popping up he was taking care of, and very quickly he had reality set in that these humans just, they can't be worked with because he's at such a disadvantage and they treat him like, honestly, scum under their boot. Great episode, probably as close to flawless as you could ask for in terms of a 2-core isekai, but let me know what you thought, because this is definitely an outplayed moment, but it's not like he's down for the count. If anything, it's gonna make their lives even worse if he really has reached his limit. But thoughts down below, theories if you got any, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more. And like I mentioned, I have a full live reaction over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Sleepfish, Gabrielle Ray, Wayne Delkis, Just Aaron, Paco, and Reedy Reed. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.